The Viking Age, spanning from the late 8th century to the early 11th century, was a period marked by the seafaring prowess, exploration, and often ruthless raiding by the Norsemen. Two significant events that epitomize the Vikings' impact on Europe are the raid on Lindisfarne Abbey in 793 CE and Ragnar Lothbrok's audacious attack on Paris in 845 CE. These events not only showcase the Vikings' strategic planning and martial skills, but also their ability to strike fear into the hearts of their contemporaries. This detailed account delves into the meticulous preparation, execution, and aftermath of these pivotal raids. The serene and isolated island of Lindisfarne, also known as Holy Island, off the northeastern coast of England, was home to a Christian monastery renowned for its scholarly and religious significance. Founded by Saint Aidan in 635 CE, the abbey was a center of learning and spirituality, housing valuable manuscripts and treasures. The decision to raid Lindisfarne was driven by multiple factors. The Vikings, originating from Scandinavia, modern-day Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, were facing overpopulation, scarce resources, and internal conflicts. These pressures pushed them to explore and exploit wealthier and less defended territories. The rich monasteries of Britain, with their accumulated treasure and lack of fortifications, presented an irresistible target. The Viking longships, characterized by their sleek, shallow draft design, were instrumental in the success of these raids. Capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, these ships allowed the Viking to strike swiftly and retreat before local forces could mount a defense. In early June 793 CE, a fleet of longships set sail from the fjords of Norway, their prows cutting through the cold water of the North Sea. The journey was perilous, with the crew enduring harsh weather and the constant threat of capsizing. However, the promise of plunder and glory spurred them on. As dawn broke on June 8, 793 CE, the monks of Lindisfarne began their daily prayers, unaware of the impending doom. The sight of the Viking ships on the horizon must have been both bewildering and terrifying. The longships glided onto the shore, and the Vikings, clad in their distinctive helmets and wielding axes and swords, disembarked with a singular purpose. The attack on Lindisfarne was swift and brutal. The Vikings stormed the abbey, slaughtering monks and pillaging treasures. The monastery's precious relics and manuscripts were either destroyed or carried off as booty. The sheer ferocity of the raid sent shockwaves throughout Christendom, as monasteries were seen as sacred and inviolable. The raiders spared few and took many as slaves, dragging them back to their ships. The survivors were left to mourn their dead and rebuild what remained of their community. The raid on Lindisfarne was not just a physical attack, but a psychological one, signaling the beginning of an era where no place, no matter how holy, was safe from the Viking onslaught. The raid on Lindisfarne had far-reaching consequences. It marked the beginning of the Viking Age, a period of over 2 centuries characterized by Norse exploration, trade, and conquest. The brutality of the attack shocked the Christian world, leading to widespread fear and the fortification of monasteries and coastal settlements. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a contemporary record, poignantly describes the raid. In this year, fierce, foreboding omens came over the land of the Northumbrians, and shortly after, in the same year on 8 January, the harrowing inroads of heathen men destroyed God's church at Lindisfarne. The Vikings' success at Lindisfarne emboldened them to launch further raids across the British Isles, Ireland, and the continent. The wealth they accumulated through these raids funded their expedition and settlements, shaping the course of European history. Ragnar Lothbrok, a legendary figure in Viking lore, is a character shrouded in myth and historical ambiguity. According to the sagas, he was a king and warrior with a thirst for adventure and conquest. His lineage, deeds, and even his existence are subjects of debate among historians. However, the saga of his attack on Paris in 845 CE is one of the most famous Viking tales. By the mid-9th century, Paris, the capital of the Carolingian Empire, had become a symbol of wealth and power. The Frankish king Charles the Bold ruled over a fragmented empire, struggling to fend off internal revolts and external threats. For Ragnar and his men, Paris represented both a lucrative target and an opportunity to strike a blow against one of the most powerful rulers of the time. Ragnar's decision to raid Paris was influenced by several factors. The city was known for its rich churches and prosperous merchants, making it an attractive target for plunder. Additionally, attacking such a significant city would enhance Ragnar's prestige and cement his legacy. Preparation for the raid was meticulous. Ragnar assembled a fleet of 120 longships, gathering warriors from across Scandinavia. These seasoned fighters, driven by the promise of riches and glory, were equipped with the best weapons and armor of the time. The longships, designed for speed and agility, were stocked with provisions for the journey. Ragnar's leadership and charisma played a crucial role in rallying the men and maintaining their morale. The prospect of raiding Paris, a city renowned for its wealth, filled the Vikings with both anticipation and determination. In early spring 845 CE, Ragnar's fleet set sail from the Danish coast, navigating the treacherous water of the North Sea. The journey was fraught with challenges, including unpredictable weather and the ever-present risk of shipwreck. However, the Vikings' expertise in seamanship and their indomitable spirit saw them through. As they approached the Seine River, the Vikings encountered Frankish defenses. Undeterred, they pressed on, their longships gliding past the fortifications with remarkable ease. The sight of the massive fleet must have struck fear into the hearts of the defenders. By late March, the Viking fleet had reached the outskirts of Paris. The city, situated on the Ile de la Cité, was heavily fortified, with walls and towers guarding against invaders. Despite these defenses, the Vikings were undeterred. They disembarked on the banks of the Seine, their war cries echoing through the air. The Franks, aware of the approaching threat, had mustered a considerable force to defend the city. However, the sight of the vast Viking fleet and the ferocity of the invaders was overwhelming. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Ragnar's strategy was a combination of direct assault and psychological warfare. The Vikings launched a fierce attack on the city's defenses, using their superior mobility and combat skills to breach the walls. The Franks, though determined, struggled to repel the relentless onslaught. In a bold move, Ragnar captured 111 Frankish soldiers and hanged them on an island in the Seine, a gruesome display intended to demoralize the defenders and force King Charles to negotiate. The tactic worked. Faced with the prospect of further devastation, Charles the Bald agreed to pay a substantial ransom of 7,000 pounds of silver and gold to spare the city. The Vikings plundered Paris, taking valuables, food supplies, and hostages. The wealth they amassed was loaded onto their ships, and they retreated down the Seine, their mission accomplished. The raid on Paris had significant repercussions. For the Franks, it was a humiliating defeat that exposed the vulnerability of their defenses and the effectiveness of Viking tactics. The ransom paid to Ragnar further strained the empire's resources and highlighted the need for better coastal and riverine defenses. For Ragnar and his men, the successful raid was a monumental triumph. The wealth and prestige they gained bolstered their standing in the Norse world and inspired further raids across Europe. The legacy of Ragnar's attack on Paris lived on in Viking sagas and medieval chronicles, cementing his reputation as one of the greatest Viking warriors. The raids on Lindisfarne and Paris were more than just acts of plunder. They were pivotal moments that shaped the course of European history. The Viking Age, characterized by exploration, trade, and conquest, left an indelible mark on the continent. The attack on Lindisfarne signaled the beginning of an era where the Vikings would influence the political, cultural, and economic landscape of Europe. The monasteries, once seen as safe havens, were now vulnerable targets, leading to increased militarization and the eventual establishment of fortified towns and castles. Ragnar's raid on Paris demonstrated the Vikings' ability to challenge even the most powerful empires. The success of the raid highlighted the need for stronger defenses and more effective strategies to counter the Viking threat. it also underscored the importance of negotiation and diplomacy in dealing with the Norse invaders. The Viking attacks on Lindisfarne Abbey in Paris were defining events of the Viking Age. These raids, marked by meticulous planning, daring execution, and significant impact, showcased the Vikings' formidable capabilities and their profound influence on medieval Europe. From the shores of Lindisfarne to the gates of Paris, the legacy of these raids continues to captivate historians and enthusiasts alike, offering a glimpse into a tumultuous and transformative period in history. Exiled from Iceland for his fierce temperament and deadly disputes, Erik had vowed to carve out a new life in the uncharted territories to the west. The open sea stretched endlessly before him, a vast and unforgiving expanse that had swallowed many a sailor whole. But Erik was undeterred. With his loyal crew by his side and his ships laden with supplies, he sailed into the unknown, guided by the promise of fertile lands and boundless opportunities. As the days turned into weeks, Erik and his men faced the brutal challenges of the ocean, towering waves, freezing storms, and the ever-present threat of icebergs. Yet, through it all, Erik's indomitable spirit and unyielding leadership kept them pressing forward. And then one fateful morning, the mist parted to reveal a rugged coastline bathed in the pale light of dawn. Erik the Red had discovered Greenland, a vast and untamed wilderness that would become the new home for him and his followers. His daring voyage would not only change the course of his own life, but also leave an indelible mark on the annals of Viking exploration. This is the story of Erik the Red.